Welcome to Housing Developments.
I'm Jim Tobin.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
Live in the studio.
Finally.
It's been 3 weeks?
Been too long.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time since I've been back in the what is it? The
mothership?
The friendly confines of the National Housing Center. So yeah, so it's good to be here. Here we're a week out from LegCon.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Before we talk about that, let's give a big shout out to our sponsor.
Oh yeah, of course, LG.
Yep, LG Pro Builder.
Let's build the good life together.
Let's build the good life together.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah, good to have LG.
I don't know why I
on
always
board.
have to feel like I have to repeat it like an echo.
I know,
after you
that's
say
all
it,
right.
but
That's all right. Well, we want everybody to know how much we appreciate LG and what they're doing, not only for the industry, but obviously to support the podcast.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Like you said, LegCon. So yeah, it's almost D-Day for our member. I mean, we have our spring leadership meeting, but in terms of like true, the bulk of people coming in, they're coming in for LegCon.
Yeah, I just visited with the government affairs team. They're obviously a week out and prepping for the big week. Over 800 people registered for legislative conference. We're over at least 150 more, maybe even 200 more than we had last year. So it's great for everybody who's coming in, and it's not too late to make your arrangements to come into town. Yeah. Find a hotel room, get a plane flight, and join over 800 members of the association on Capitol Hill talking about the issues. It's great. It's going to be a great day.
Yeah, and speaking of driving in and not too late to come in, I want to give a shout out, though, to Lori Asaro.
Yeah.
Right? She is the chair of the National Sales and Marketing Council.
Right.
She is doing what you and I have been talking about for almost 10 years now.
Road tripping
across the country.
Yeah, awesome.
Stopping along the way at HBAs to then kind of get a vibe as how things are going and make her way over to LegCon.
That's awesome.
And kind of do her report.
Good for her. That's awesome.
Right? So she's started in San Diego.
Yep.
I think she's made it now to Phoenix, so it's early days.
Oh, yeah.
But
she better kind of step on it. She's got a week to get here. Yeah.
Well, there's a big chunk of the middle of the country.
Have you ever driven from Phoenix to Dallas? I have. I can assure you, it is the flattest part of the place. I remember a quick story. We're driving with my buddy, moving him back he went to University of Arizona, moving him back east. We're in Texas. We just crossed the border, and we're coming into El Paso. We're coming in, and I see headlights way ahead of us. It took 2 hours before they passed us. That's how flat it is in Western Texas. It is anyway. But Lori, that's awesome. I'm psyched. I love a road trip. So that's awesome. You're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
And just way to connect the Federation. That's awesome.
100%. And if you want to follow her on social media, you can. It's hashtag NHB on the road.
Awesome.
And not only is that off of her Facebook page, but NHB is also tagging her and following her along because, like you said, it's a really cool story.
Yeah, it's a really cool story. I look forward to hearing all about it when she gets to the leadership meeting next week.
Right. And if you don't know, she's a fantastic woman. She's very bubbly. She has the personality,
the it factor.
Right. So when she interviews folks, she gets she pulls stuff out of them.
Yeah, I want to know what music she's listening to, and if she's listening to any podcast. Well, I know she's listening to this podcast.
Better be.
Or any books on tape. I think it'd be worthwhile to know what her routine was.
Maybe that's who we interview. We do a guest interview with her
that'd be awesome.
that week. I think that'd be kind of fun to have her debrief.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Lori, you've got an invitation. That's all I'm saying.
All right, stay safe, Lori. That's awesome.
Okay, so as you said, over 800 of our members, both builders and associates, going up to Capitol Hill, talking about housing.
Yeah.
What are some of the issues that you think are going to be first and foremost on everyone's minds?
Well, I think first and foremost, affordability in the housing crisis, right? Interest rates continue to tamp down demand, but the good news is we're still the only game in town. We've talked about this on the pod for months now, but the headwinds, right? What are the things that are keeping us from meeting our full potential and building those 1.5 million new homes that we need to build each year? So first and foremost, we're going to talk about regulations and codes in particular, energy codes in particular. With the Biden administration's announcement 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago now about the new regulation on FHA housing and USDA housing, likely VA housing next, and maybe even Fannie and Freddie are going to join the fray in mandating what I think is nothing short of a national energy code. That's right. That all new homes that are going to use financing from FHA and USDA, at least for now, have to meet the 2021 IECC. They're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about ways that we can curb that what I believe is regulatory overreach by this administration. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, transformers. No matter where I travel, I continue to hear about transformers, distributional transformers in particular, continue to continue to be hard to come by, which means you've got homes, you've got apartments, you've got subdivisions that can't be conditioned or they're delayed because of the lack of distributional transformers. We're going to talk about that. What can the federal government do to lean in on creating, they've poured money into EVs, they've poured money into so many different sectors, but this is one they just can't get their act together with. So we've got to get Congress and the administration on the same page, as well as other electrical equipment. I talked to a lot of, it's not just transformers, but it's meter cans and it's boxes and it's wiring. There's all just the electrical, I don't want to call it a grid because it's not the national grid, right? But think of a small grid for the house. Yeah. It's there's just this real supply chain crunch right now, and that continues to be persistent over the last year, if not longer, for us. And then finally, workforce development, ensuring that we won the war. We won the battle, I would say, on the continuation of Job Corps funding. We need to continue battling and winning the war to make sure that that's funded, this year and moving into the future. But also just the need for workforce development. How do we get more kids and more people in the trades, upskill people, and just find a way to make sure that we can lessen the labor crunch that we see in the industry.
Right, and at least two of the three seem to me fairly bipartisan. Right, transformers, workforce.
Yeah.
That should be something that, regardless of whether you're going to visit your Democratic, congressman or your Republican congressman, it should be something that we can all bond to, right? I mean, I don't see that now. But in terms of the codes issue, is that going to be a heavier or a steeper battle?
Yeah, I think the battle lines on climate change have been drawn pretty clearly. Right, Republicans are, while they may generally believe that there is the climate is changing, they do not agree that it's all man-made, and that we have to overregulate the economy in order to solve that problem. Democrats, generally speaking, they believe that climate change is a winning issue. They believe that climate change is causing these supercharging storms, which we're seeing more flooding. So resiliency is a big key for the Democrats. Obviously, the insurance market has gone haywire. That's what people point to, less resilient homes and paying out claims. But also they've generally embraced climate change, moving to electric vehicles, electrification, gas bans. Again, generally speaking, the parties. I don't want to offend anybody in particular. And so, do I think it's bipartisan? No, but I'll tell you what is bipartisan in this issue: housing affordability. There isn't a state, a district across the country that isn't facing an affordability crunch right now, whether it's apartments or whether it's ownership, and that's what our members have to focus on. It's about whether or not this regulation goes too far in pushing more and more people out of ownership, and that's what this does. By our estimates, up to $30,000 in increase of cost of home because of this regulation. We've got to tell that story. That is not affordable by any stretch of the imagination. So housing affordability is the bipartisan issue.
So that's basically going to be the umbrella topic. Everything else falls underneath it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm going to take a little bit of a time out here because the Wall Street Journal today reported that apartments now are oversupplied and basically the builders are going to stop building apartments because there was a historic amount of units being pumped into the market, but you've spoken to the multifamily leadership board. You speak to these guys all the time. That's not what you're hearing.
No. I believe we did have historic. The highest number of apartments under construction since 1973, early 70s. But that's a great story, right? We know rents were too damn high, so more supply. We know more supply is the answer to all of these issues. So yes, we're going to have an influx over the next couple of years of the supply coming online. That should help to drive rents down. That's a good thing.
Sure.
But are we oversupplied in rental? I don't believe that at all. I think there's some people, because of high interest rates, aren't going to look for ownership because rental is now becoming comparable as rents fall to ownership. I also think that the reason why we're not seeing more apartments under construction is simply that the cap rates are too high. The deals aren't out there. They're hard to pencil out. Multifamily is a difficult business, and there's just not good, affordable money out there to back these deals. So while we may have this influx of new supply coming in over the next year or two, the back end we're gonna be in a supply crunch because there's no pipeline of further apartment construction. So I don't buy this at all. I think it's a symptom of interest rate environment, not necessarily the will or the need for more apartments. So we'll find out, I guess, who's, we always look backwards and find out who's right. But that's my take talking to the members.
But we're always talking about it, right? It's about consistency, right? Like about whether you're talking about zoning, regulations, right. It's about making sense, middle of the ground, not getting over our skis on these things. Same thing with multifamily, right? Like, yes, we built a lot of units because we needed a lot of units.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we're going to go off a cliff. It just means that we need to kind of peter down a little bit and hit that consistency zone.
Yeah, that's right. Rob Dietz will talk about a consistent level of 400,000 units year over year, right? So we've been over 500,000 for the last several years, but we're gonna drop pretty low. Probably maybe under 300,000. But again, it's let's get up to a manageable level and produce at that consistent level. To your point, I think that's right. So, but bouncing up and down off of highs and lows, that is not good for the market. It's not good for businesses.
Exactly. Right. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. Last week, end of the week, the Trump administration got a little bit of, I guess we'd say a little bit of bad news. I guess the reason why I'm bringing it up is this something that's going to be affecting our ability to talk to folks next week because they're going to be, kind of thinking of other things? Or do you think that really this is just something, okay, this is a Trump administration kind of thing and they're going to be dealing with it, but it's early days?
Yeah, I think it's early days. I haven't really seen any polling that's they're out this week.
Mm-hmm.
The polls are in the field trying to judge what the guilty verdict has on the campaign now. I've seen reports where people say, I would never vote for a felon, so it's no good for me. And I've people say, well, this is no different than anything else he's been accused of, or and so this is a non-factor. People say, look, everybody's crooked, so who cares? I think my guess is it just it hardens the lines,
right?
And we'll know more as we get closer. I've been saying this consistently. We're way far out, right? This is probably the only one of the 4 court cases that we're going to see, right? We're going to see the sentencing is now another month out.
Right.
We'll know do they actually put a former president in jail? Yeah. Is it a fine? I mean, we've got a long way to go. Plus, we know the former president is going to appeal. And so that won't resolve itself before the election. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens. I still think that this campaign, I think everybody knows who they think Joe Biden is. I think they know who they think Donald Trump is.
Right.
Verdict aside or not, the question is what is the most important thing you're going to vote on, whether it's abortion, the border, the economy. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that motivate people to vote. Whether this is one of them, yes, sort of, but I'm not so sure this is the black one. We've seen the president say some outrageous things in the past, and it didn't damage his reelection or his election the first time. Second time, who knows what the factors were.
So, you said this earlier before we came on, like you don't see this as the black swan event that everyone's kind of.
No, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I think. I mean, even though we've been telegraphing the trial, so it's not really the black swan event.
Yeah.
Maybe the verdict, one way or the other, was a black swan event. Is there another shoe to drop? Sure. Who knows?
Right.
But yeah, no. This is pretty big an event that's happened in a campaign cycle for president that I can really remember. Right? Think about it. I mean, you had Bill Clinton. We've gone through a lot. Iran-Contra. I mean, those things when I was a kid.
Right.
So those all seem big. This one seems bigger.
But different?
Yeah, but different. I just, I remember when they tried to impeach Bill Clinton. I remember, the perjury charge, all these things. You're like, oh my God, this is going to be it. Or the Monica Lewinsky deal. I remember, oh my God, this is what, and the country moved on, right? We get desensitized to these things. I'm not diminishing the charges. I'm not diminishing the legal system by any way, but I do believe the American voter gets desensitized to many different things. Right? Think of the drumbeat about Hunter Biden and President Biden, right? I mean, we get desensitized these things, which means as you tune those out, you start focusing on those issues that are really important to you. What's going to drive it? And I, talked about abortion or again the border, or the economy. Those are the things I think that continue to drive people. Right. But then that's just my take.
Okay, so we're now in June though. So when do we start getting the Jim Tobin predictions? I know it's early days, so I'm not expecting them now.
Yeah, no,
I know our viewers and listeners want to know.
I've been pretty consistent. I still think the House flips to Democratic control. It's such a razor thin majority in the House. It's hard to keep those seats. Now, that said, the Republicans expect to make some gains in North Carolina, maybe even South Carolina, Texas, Florida, and the Democrats expect to make gains in New York and California. Do they offset themselves? Maybe, but when either party only needs a couple seats, but there's not a big swing election coming. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a big 10-seat majority. I'm sorry, that's not a big seat, but we're looking at like a 10-seat majority. It's not. Yeah. It's going to be a weird election. President, I wouldn't take a gander on that. Senate, I still think that the Senate flips. West Virginia is already in the Republican column with Joe Manchin retiring, and then you've got Montana and Ohio, the next two.
And let's talk about Joe Manchin, because our man's retiring from the Senate, but he flipped to independent.
He did, and now there's room he may run for governor again.
Right?
Yeah, I remember talking to Sandy Dunn, former president of the association, and she was very close to Joe Manchin. I remember thinking, when he was governor and then running for Senate, so there was a lot of people who thought, well, up and out would be okay too, right? So I don't know if he's got if he could still come back and run in the state. I don't know. I mean, Joe Manchin's been, he's played both sides of the fence very, very well. I mean, truly a moderate out there. The party, I believe, as a Democrat, is kind of moved away from him, just like the moderate Republicans. The party has generally moved away from them. Yeah. But I'd be curious to see what his next act is in his political life.
Just a little curious, right? It's just kind of weird that he turned independent, right?
I think it's
raised a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah, I think it's generally kind of be thumbing your nose and saying
to the Dems.
Yeah, I just the parties are squeezing out those middle of the road. When I first came and worked on Capitol Hill, you had really big, moderate Republicans. You had really big moderate Democrats, the old blue dogs. Yeah. Those have been eviscerated over the last 20 years. The parties have gotten. I remember. There was a member from Texas, Charlie Stenholm, good, Democrat, ag guy, really kind of a, middle of the road Democrat, and we needed more Charlie Stenholms, but the Republicans like, oh, that's a conservative district, we'll wipe them out. They wiped them out, right? And just both parties have feasted on that middle to now where it's really hard, and now compromise is a dirty word, and for an industry that really needs compromise to move along, and I believe in durable legislation is better than ruling by regulation or executive order, right? or even court cases, right? That's what we're left with. If we can find a way to bring more people who are willing to walk across the aisle and cut deals. We saw a little bit of that this year on transportation bills and foreign funding, but that's what we need more of.
No, absolutely.
Ooh, that was a big speech there.
Yeah,
I feel like I should get draped with the American flag and sing James Brown, Living in America. But anyway, that's my anyway.
All right, well let's that.
Good.
All right. Excellent. Well, again, our sponsor, LG
Pro Builder. Let's build a good life together.
I'm not going to do it. All right. With that, I'm Paul Lopez.
And I'm Jim Tobin. See you next time.
Take care.